Women want to be fucked by a man. We are not delicate little creatures that you can't be rough with. We want to be dominated and shown who's boss. Women actually want to surrender all control to you. So don't be afraid to take that control and completely ravish her. She wants it and she thinks it's hot. She doesn't just want to feel loved. She wants to feel like you own her ass. And if you don't own her ass, another man will.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll see several women talking to us about divorce, and we'll also go over some interesting facts and statistics about what divorce means for both men and women. We want you to smash that like button and subscribe. We're on our way to 150,000 subscribers, and with your support, we're going to crush that goal. Leave us your experience or opinion about these cases in the comments. And without further ado, let's get started.
I do not get the hype around marriage. I really don't. When I was married, I found it to be really underwhelming and overrated. I never at any point felt like I was doing something special or magical. If anything, I felt like I joined a cult, because people would get really weird about me going off script in terms of being a wife and just getting married. For example, I didn't take my ex-husband's last name when I got married, and if you didn't know this, if you're a woman and you marry a dude and you don't take his last name, people get real freaking weird about it. They get really worked up about it. People would ask me all the time. They would be like, what would you do if you had kids? And my answer would not bring them comfort, because what I would essentially tell them is I'd be like, if we do have children, they're taking my last name because I birthed them. I'm not going to labor and bring a child into the world just to give it some fucking dude's last name. That is my child. It is not part of my self-concept to credit somebody else for my work. Sorry. And that one would really rile some people up. People really did not like that one. And to me, it seemed like the most logical thing, to be honest with you. I don't understand why we give children their dad's last names. Seems kind of wacky to me. And listen, I don't want any women in my comments justifying why they took their husband's last names or why their kids have their husband's last names. I don't care. Like, I don't have any hatred towards you. I know people just do what they do, but what I'm just talking about is my experience of not doing what everybody else is doing and how people freak out on you like you're in a cult. You know what I mean? So it's just odd. It was a really weird time in my life. And I just kind of felt like I was always getting this subtle pressure from the world around me to give up my personhood once I became a wife. And I really didn't like that. And I couldn't quite articulate it when I was married, but I can see it very clearly now.
Stop it. Get some help.
No offense, but yeah, I also thought she was a lesbian. She's got more masculine energy than a lot of guys these days. And that's not a compliment. It's no surprise she's divorced. When a woman starts off with lines like, I don't get the hype about marriage, and it felt like a cult to me, you already know it's pure individualism coming your way. Brother, if your woman even refuses to take your last name, how do you expect her to respect your leadership or build a life with you? And the best part, she wants the kids to have her last name because she gave birth to them. So basically, the guy was just there to plant the seed, but she gets all the credit. Does that sound fair to you? These are the kinds of women who'll only do something for you if you do something first. They're emotionally stingy and live with a competitive mindset, not a cooperative one. That's why she's divorced and hitting the wall, because we all know the wall shows no mercy.
Why are so many women in their 40s divorced or thinking about divorce? Imagine this. She's been running the household, managing the kids' schedules, excelling at her career, and still picking up her husband's slack. And now she's wondering, what's the point of this partnership if I'm doing it all by myself? Here's what happens. High-achieving women hit a breaking point. They're exhausted. They've tried motivating their husbands. Can you please help me with the kids? Or can you take on more at home? But nothing changes. And resentment? Oh, it grows like wildfire. She starts thinking, I'm already the breadwinner. I'm already handling everything. What am I getting out of this marriage? And that realization is like a tidal wave crashing into everything she thought she wanted. It's not impossible to save the marriage. It's just incredibly difficult when one partner refuses to grow. And the longer she waits, the more she feels like she's losing herself. So if you're feeling this way, ask yourself, are you sacrificing yourself to keep the peace, or are you ready to reclaim your life? Because staying isn't the default answer. Choosing you, that's where the power lies.
These days, the narrative is that a married woman deserves more. More money, more attention, more success. And if she doesn't have it, it's because her husband is a stone in her path. But no one asks about the guy who busts his ass working, who also helps clean, who even pays for a cleaning lady once a month, and still has to deal with a wife who neither helps around the house nor contributes financially. And on top of that, he's stuck carrying the emotional burden of her not feeling fulfilled. Shouldn't you also choose yourself? Because it seems like only they have the right to leave everything behind to find themselves. And the most ironic part is that a lot of these women who get divorced at 40 thinking they're about to reclaim themselves end up crashing hard into the wall. The narrative sounds beautiful until you face reality. Not all of them will succeed. For every one woman who manages to reinvent herself, there are 10 who end up in debt, single, and living a reality that's very different from the one they were sold. If they were all really that empowered, there wouldn't be so many living below the poverty line. But of course, you won't hear that part in the motivational speeches, right?
Women.
I cannot tell you how many of these comments I've gotten off of this one video. So many women are swearing off being married. They'll say, I'll never get married again. I can't wait till I get divorced. I'll never live with a man again, so on and so forth. And I think it's just very telling. Like, I myself, I've lived with a male partner before, and it was hell. You know, they treat you like a literal slave. I remember joking with my cousin recently, and I was like, hey, girl, you know I can't keep no man. Really what it means is I don't want to keep a man. And then she admits to me, she's like, you know what? I'm a slave. I'm a slave to my husband. I'm a slave to my son. And I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. All of us women who are sharing our horrible experiences with men, being in romantic relationships with men, we're not crazy. We're not imagining this. There's a reason why we're all going through this right now. And we're waking up. Marriage is sold to us every single day. Hey, look, if you're a woman, you need to get married. You need to tie yourself to a man. Your success depends on it. Your worth as a woman is nothing if you're not tied to a man, right? That's what we are told. And this is very clever marketing and a very clever scheme for men to really enjoy the invisible and often uncompensated labor that women provide. I mean, this scheme and this scam has been so good that most of us have forgotten the origins of marriage, right? Marriage originally was a tool for men to own women as property. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of them treat the women that they're with like property, whether they be married, whether they're just boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever, whether they're living together. I mean, think about the whole Keke Palmer thing, right? I mean, it's very telling. One of my favorite scholars, her name is Catherine McKinnon. She's a Marxist feminist and a lawyer. And she wrote about the exploitative labor dynamics between men and women. And she goes on to explain that because of the domestic and invisible labor that women provide in the home, that wives provide in the home, the men's time and energy was freed up so that they go out into the world and conquer the world and take their place in the public sphere. All while what? All while women sacrifice their opportunity to make a name for themselves, to represent themselves in the public sphere, right? So they're held captive in the home, producing this domestic feminized labor so that men can free up their time and free up their energy to go be men out in the world, right? I'm saying this all to say that we are not imagining things, right? Like, they do treat us like servants. They do treat us like slaves. And it's because of the origins of marriage. Marriage has always been a labor contract so that men can enjoy and exploit the invisible, undercompensated, and uncompensated labor of women.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
She's a slave for taking care of her own home, but she's an empowered woman for killing herself working 8 to 12 hours a day at a company that would replace her tomorrow if she got sick. Of course, her guru is some Marxist feminist, the kind who preaches communism but lives a life of luxury under capitalism and wouldn't dare set foot in a socialist country. It's hilarious how she talks about marriage being a scam when we're living in the era with the highest number of single women. Let's not forget, by 2030, 45% of women in the US are expected to be single, and honestly, I think it'll be even higher at the rate things are going. Because yeah, working 12 hours a day, coming home to an empty house, having no one to take care of you when you get sick, aging alone, and getting tossed aside by your company for someone younger, that's the dream life. But having a husband, kids, a home, and building a family, that's slavery. What a joke. What nobody tells them is that not all of them are going to become successful businesswomen or millionaire influencers. Most will end up as statistics, alone, broke, and blaming the system. But hey, keep believing in the radical feminist marketing. The wall is waiting, and the wall doesn't forgive.
5 more hard truths that people are not going to tell you about divorce, but I am. Some of your friends that are in relationships right now, especially new relationships, are going to feel kind of threatened by the fact you're single. It's weird. You're going to have late nights where you feel like, oh my gosh, I've totally made a mistake. I should get back together with my ex. Fight through those feelings and realize you are where you're supposed to be. People are going to ask you all sorts of weird, awkward questions like, whose fault was it? Oh, did you pick your career over your marriage? You don't have to answer those. In fact, don't answer those. The most random things are going to remind you of your ex, but don't try to go relive them. Just know it's normal. The first person you meet is probably not going to be the next love of your life. Probably not going to be. Just remember that. You're going to find that you're angry, you're upset, you're sad, you're missing that person. And then one day you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that you're not. And that's going to be the beginning of your next amazing chapter.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
You know why women lead the statistics when it comes to antidepressant use and therapy visits? Because you can escape everything, except your own mind and your own decisions. And listen closely. When she's asked if she chose her career over her marriage, she doesn't answer. Why? Because that's exactly what she did. Career first, relationship second, or never. But of course, later they don't understand why the house feels empty, why success tastes bitter. There's a saying that goes, what good is a big house if you only occupy one room? The idea that the next person will be the love of your life is just another illusion. The success rate between first and third marriages drops dramatically, around 60% for first marriages, 33 to 40% for second marriages, and barely 26 to 27% for third marriages. The more you chase that dream partner, the more you fail. But hey, today everything is worth it if you can end up calling yourself an empowered, strong, and independent woman.
Let's talk about divorce. If you're going through a divorce or contemplating getting a divorce, I don't want to be the bearer of good news, but it's always better afterward. Don't get me wrong. The process of divorce can be really stressful. For some, very painful. For others, it could be glorious. But the point is, what a lot of women don't understand is that there is actually life after divorce, and usually it's 99.9% better. Once you actually overcome the fear, the sadness, the anger, the hate, or whatever it is that you may be feeling, it's actually one of the most satisfying, amazing, glorifying feelings ever. To be independent, to feel like you're yourself again. Now, everybody's divorce and situation is different, but a lot of people always ask me, it's so hard, I'm so scared, I'm so worried, I'm worried about being alone. Don't be worried about being alone. That is the most beautiful part. Being alone sometimes is the best thing for you. And I'm not only talking about relationships, just friendships as well. Being alone and not having a million friends around you sometimes is the most comforting feeling and is the best feeling for you. I enjoy not having a million friends around me. I enjoy sitting at home. I enjoy being around my children and family and people who actually matter to me that I value. And sometimes all that happens from regrowth and re-understanding of yourself and who you are. A lot of times we lose ourselves in friendships and relationships, and regaining that part of yourself back is the hardest part, but it's so satisfying when you jump over that hurdle. It's not the end of the world. You're not gonna crumble. You're not gonna be down and out. Once the process is over, give yourself a solid year from start to finish. I promise you you are gonna be the happiest you have ever been. I promise. And a lot of people ask me, but I have kids. It's so much harder when you have kids. I have kids too. Having kids should not be the reason you stick around. Because ultimately, if you stick around because of your kids and you become unhappy and you're miserable, you're gonna take that out on your kids. It's better they have one individual happy parent than two miserable parents.
I've always said, divorce hurts, but it depends on which side you're on. If you're the one asking for it, you've already processed the decision. If it's dropped on you, it hits like a bucket of cold water. And since about 80% of divorces are initiated by women, guess who usually ends up shattered at first? But here's the difference. After taking the hit, a man gets back up. He's more resilient. He needs less to be okay. He adapts. And if he manages to stay connected to his kids, he realizes something crucial. Living without a woman who no longer loves you isn't that bad. In fact, it can be the start of your best chapter. A study from Duke University Press looking at a 5-year span found that women's median household income drops by about 41% after divorce, compared to 23% for men. That gap persists throughout the next decade, fueling higher poverty rates among women. Yet within 5 years, about 64% of men remarry, compared to only 52% of women. And when a man marries a working woman, his income almost triples, especially if he had kids from his first marriage. Being a man is still a blessing. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, here are some questions for you. What's your opinion about women who get divorced? Do you know any divorced men? How did things turn out for them? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall.